Let's continue reading. I'm eating some candy. I have some wine gum left. The sun is shining, so the temperature is getting up, but now it's like soon 4 p.m. So it's not getting much hotter. It's 3:30. Just continue reading, but it's not always it's working. You can pause and continue reading. I need to wash my fingers because I've been eating this candy and it's very hot. It's very hot in my apartment. So my candy gets a little sticky like jam because of all this sugar. So I did close everything about jet engines. I did close it today. Like 60 web pages, and I make 6 Danish video. So I did write it down here. So let's continue reading. But it's not always working.
Main article: Automotive industry in Slovakia. Slovakia had very little automotive industry as part of Czechoslovakia. After dissolution of the federation, new car assembly plants were built by foreign companies in Slovakia as in other countries in Central Europe. Auto manufacturers in the Slovakia currently include 3 OEM automobile production plants: Volkswagens in Bratislava, PSA Peugeot Citroëns in Trnava and Kia Motors Ilina plant. Since 2007, Slovakia has been the world's largest producer of cars per capita, with a total of 571,071 cars manufactured in the 2007 alone in a country with 5 million people. Over time this placed it at top spot in car production per capita worldwide by 2013 with a yearly production of over 980,000 vehicles. With this production in 2013 was Slovakia 18th in the list of worldwide car production by country. Automotive is the largest industry in Slovakia with a share of 12% on the Slovak GDP in 2013, which was 41% of industrial production and 26% of Slovakia export. 80,000 people were directly employed in the automotive industry in 2014. This number will be even increased when Jaguar Land Rover starts production in Nitra in 2018. Slovenia, edit. Having some small auto production in socialist Yugoslavia, Slovenia became one of the new Central European car-making countries and now produces near 200,000 per year, mainly for export. Soviet Union, edit. Main article: Automotive industry in the Soviet Union. Spain, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in Spain. After World War II, Franco's Spain lagged behind main European auto manufacturing countries for decades. Only at the end of the 1970s it was able to produce more than 1 million vehicles and was fifth in Europe and ninth in the world. Then significant growth allows Spain to overtake the United Kingdom, Italy and achieve the 3 million output, for export partially, third place in Europe, sixth place in the world at 2000. Since that time, due to East European and Asian competitors on European market, auto exports from Spain have slowed and annual production decreased to 2.4 million, although Spain beat France and became the second auto power in Europe, after Germany, but ninth in the world. In 2009, the automotive industry generated 3.5% of the country's GDP and gave employment to about 9% of the working population. Spain is in 8th place in car manufacturing countries, but 2008 and 2009 showed a decrease in car production. The downward spiral started about 10 years ago, with an abandoning policy of many consecutive governments. The result has been the loss of all Spanish car brands manufacturers, which are now in hands of foreign companies. Nowadays, Spain's major domestic firm is the Volkswagen Group's subsidiary brand Seat, SA. Sweden, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in Sweden. Swedish automobile manufacturing is widely known in European and US markets due to advanced and safe cars including Saab and Volvo brands, although their production, 150-200,000 per year, is not among the largest in Europe and the world. Ukraine, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in Ukraine. Ukraine was one of two only Soviet republics having production of all types of automobiles and was second by volume in the automotive industry of the Soviet Union with more than 200,000 annual production. Ukraine automobile manufacturers produces 100-200,000 per year now and includes UK Auto, ZAZ, MZ, Bogdan Motors, KIAZ, KISZ, BAZ, Chaz, Electron, Eurocar, Italian Auto, HAL-AZ, Anto-Ayus and LAZ. While domestic trucks, buses and trolleybuses continues to be made, production of self-designed cars, such as ZAZ Tavria, decreased and now Ukraine assembles mainly Europe, China and South Korea developed cars. United Kingdom, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in the United Kingdom. The automotive industry in the United Kingdom is now best known for premium and sports car marques including Aston Martin, Bentley, Daimler, Jaguar, Legendar, Land Rover, Lotus, McLaren, MG, Mini, Morgan and Rolls-Royce. Volume car manufacturers with a major presence in the UK include Ford, only produces engines and gearboxes in Britain having ended passenger car production in 2002 and commercial vehicle production in 2013, Honda, Nissan, Toyota and Vauxhall Motors, owned by Stellantis. Commercial vehicle manufacturers active in the UK include Alexander Dennis, Ford, IBC Vehicles, owned by Stellantis, Leyland Trucks, owned by PACCAR, and London Taxis International. Peugeot did produce cars in Britain at the former Rootes Group plant near Coventry until its closure in 2006, having purchased the European operations of American carmaker Chrysler in 1978. MG cars are produced at the Longbridge plant in Birmingham, where its Chinese owners SAIC Motor in 2008, 3 years after the former MG Rover Group went into liquidation. Less than half of the original Longbridge site is still in use for production, and the number of people employed there is also much lower than it was under MG Rover. MG and Rover were once part of the British Motor Corporation, which became British Leyland in the 1960s, as were Jaguar until 1984. British Leyland was nationalised in 1975 and privatised under Rover Group in 1988. Land Rover and Mini remained part of the Rover Group until 2000, when BMW sold the MG and Rover marques to a consortium, retained the rights to build the new Mini, and sold Land Rover to Ford, although Ford has since sold Jaguar and Land Rover to Indian industrial giant Tata. British Leyland also produced cars under marques including Austin, Morris and Triumph, but these were phased out during the 1980s as the Rover brand gradually took over. Ford began production in Britain at Trafford Park, Manchester, at a factory which opened in 1911, but this plant was eventually closed down as it concentrated production in newer factories at locations including Liverpool, Bridgend, Southampton and its flagship Dagenham plant. Until the late 1960s, Ford's British model range was largely separate to its German build range, but over the next decade its European range was gradually brought into line and a new Spanish factory was opened in 1976. From the 1970s onwards, German, Spanish and later Belgian-produced Ford cars were imported to Britain, although passenger car production of some models continued in Britain until 2002 and commercial vehicle production did not finish until 2013, when the Southampton plant was closed and production switched to Turkey. The Holywood plant near Liverpool has been the site of Jaguar and Land Rover production since 2000. Vauxhall originally produced cars at a London plant before moving to Luton, while under General Motors. A second factory opened at Ellesmere Port, Cheshire, in 1962. During the 1970s, Vauxhall's model range was brought into line with the model lines of Opel, with the two brands sharing basic designs, although they normally had separate model names until the 1990s. The Opel brand was discontinued in Britain at the end of the 1980s, and the Vauxhall brand largely confined to Britain. Passenger car production at the Luton plant ended in 2004. The site remains active for commercial vehicle production. Nissan started to produce cars in Britain in 1986 and as the first Japanese car maker, opening a new factory on Wearside. Toyota opened a factory near Derby in 1992 and a Welsh plant on Dysyd in 1993. Around the same time that Honda began producing cars at its, now defunct, Swindon plant. In 2008, the UK automotive manufacturing sector had a turnover of £52.5 billion, generated £26.6 billion of exports and produced around 1.45 million passenger vehicles and 203,000 commercial vehicles. In that year around 180,000 people were directly employed in automotive manufacturing in the UK, with a further 640,000 people employed in automotive supply, retail and servicing. The UK is a major centre for engine manufacturing and in 2008 around 3.16 million engines were produced in the country. The UK has a significant presence in auto racing and the UK motorsport industry currently employs around 38,500 people, comprises around 4,500 companies and has an annual turnover of around £6 billion. The origins of the UK automotive industry date back to the final years of the 19th century. By the 1950s the UK was the second largest manufacturer of cars in the world, after the United States, and the largest exporter. However, in subsequent decades the industry experienced considerably lower growth than competitor nations such as France, Germany and Japan, and by 2008 the UK was the 12th largest producer of cars measured by volume. Since the late 1980s many British car marques have become owned by foreign companies including BMW, SAIC, Tata and Volkswagen Group. Rights to many currently dormant brands, including Austin, Riley, Rover and Triumph, are also owned by foreign companies. North America, edit. Canada, edit. Main article, Automotive industry in Canada. Canada is currently the 11th largest auto producer in the world with 2.1 million annual output, down from 7th place with 3 million peak a few years ago. China, Spain, India, Brazil, Mexico recently surpassed Canadian production for the first time ever. Canada's highest rankings ever was second largest producer in the world between 1918 and 1923 and third after World War II. The Canadian auto industry traces its roots to the very beginning of the automobile. The first large-scale production of automobiles in Canada took place in Walkerville, near Windsor, Ontario in 1904. In the first year of operations, Gordon McGregor and Wallace Campbell, along with a handful of workmen, produced 117 Model C Ford vehicles at the Walkerville Wagon Works factory. Through marks such as Brooks Steam, Redpath, Tudhope, Mackay, Guild Gas Electric, Grey Dot, Brockville Atlas, CCM, and McLaughlin, Canada had many domestic auto brands. In 1918 McLaughlin was bought by an American firm, General Motors, and was rebranded as General Motors of Canada. Driven by the demands of World War I, Canada's automotive industry had grown, by 1923, into the second largest in the world, although it was still made up of relatively inefficient plants producing many models behind a high tariff wall. High consumer prices and production inefficiencies characterized the Canadian auto industry prior to the signing of the 1965 Automotive Products Trade Agreement with the United States. The 1964 Automotive Products Trade Agreement or Auto Pact represents the single most important factor in making the Canadian automotive industry what it is today. Key features of the Auto Pact were the 1:1 production to sales ratio and Canadian value-added requirements. Magna International is Canada's biggest domestic firm in the sector, and is the world's third largest auto parts firm, producing entire vehicles at its Magna Steyr plant in Austria. Mexico, edit. Main article, Automotive industry in Mexico. The Mexican automotive industry mostly consists of foreign assembly plants. The earliest ones were established by American companies, then various European and Japanese manufacturers followed. More units of the original Volkswagen Beetle, in production in Puebla from 1955 to 2003, were built in Mexico than anywhere else. Mexican production increased rapidly in the 1990s, because of NAFTA, which led to many American, European, and Japanese manufacturers to move the production of many of their USA market and Canadian market models to Mexico, putting Mexico at 6th place in the world in terms of units produced. The only current domestic Mexican automobile manufacturers are Vul, Zacua and Dina, both of which source their engines from foreign manufacturers. United States, edit. Main article, Automotive industry in the United States. The American automobile industry began in the 1890s and rapidly evolved into the largest automotive producer in the world through the use of mass production. The industry began with hundreds of manufacturers, but by the end of the 1920s it became dominated by three large companies: General Motors, Ford and Chrysler. After the Great Depression and World War II, these companies continued to prosper and the US produced near 3/4 of all automobiles in the world at 1950. However, after record of production near 15 million in some 1970s years, at the beginning and middle of that decade, a combination of high oil prices, increased competition from foreign auto manufacturers, and increasing government regulation severely affected the companies. In the 1980s-1990s, US auto power was overtaken by rapidly growing Japanese auto industry, but in the 21st century both of them are balanced and now are the second largest in the world, after China, with annual production of 8-10 million. In the ensuing years, the companies periodically bounced back, but by 2008 the industry was in turmoil. As a result, General Motors and Chrysler filed bankruptcy reorganization and were bailed out with loans and investments from the federal government. Chrysler later merged into Fiat as Fiat Chrysler and is today a part of the multinational Stellantis group. American electric automaker Tesla emerged onto the scene in 2009 and has since grown to be one of the world's most valuable companies, producing around 1/4 of the world's fully electric passenger cars. Oceania, edit. Australia, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in Australia. Holden, part of General Motors, Ford, Toyota and Mitsubishi all manufactured cars in Australia, but by 2017 had all closed down. Factors causing the closure included non-competitive Australian labour and the effect of government tariffs. Australia first began to produce cars in 1897 with cars made by Tarrant Motor and Engineering Company. The first major Australian car maker was Ford Australia. The first Australian-designed mass-produced car was the Holden 48-215. Released in 1948. Annual production of vehicles reached a maximum of almost 500,000 in the 1970s, at the time 10th globally, and 400,000 in the 2000s, but by 2012, production declined to approximately 200,000, 30th place, due to competition from Asian automakers and changing consumer preferences. Some indigenous small-scale car manufacture has existed in the past in Australia, including the Madison Buffery. Mitsubishi closed down in 2008. Ford closed down in 2016, and Holden and Toyota both closed in October 2017. Trucks are still assembled in Australia from imported components. New Zealand, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in New Zealand. New Zealand no longer has a vehicle assembly industry for passenger cars. Changes to protection of the local industry eventually led to the closure of the assembly plants since they could not compete with foreign counterparts. The largest car companies in New Zealand are Toyota New Zealand and Ford New Zealand. Annual output of automotive industry achieved near 100,000 in the 1980s and then decreased due to Asian-made imports. Currently, there are a number of small domestic companies producing original kit and replica cars for both the local and international markets. Several of these, while small in size, are noted internationally for the quality of their workmanship. South America, edit. Argentina, edit. Main article, Automotive Industry in Argentina. See also, List of automobiles manufactured in Argentina. Argentina has a long history of auto manufacturing, almost entirely focused on the manufacture of foreign-designed vehicles. They produced 100,000 units, 12th in the world, in 1960. 200,000 in 1970, 300,000 in 1980, then decreased to 100,000 in 1990 due to a deep economic crisis. A restoration had occurred by the middle of the 2000s and then significant growth boosted annual production to more than 800,000 units, third place in Latin America, after Brazil and Mexico, and 20th in the world. The Argentine industry is regulated by the Asociación de Fabricantes de Automotores, ADIFA, created in 1960, which includes makers of automobiles, light vehicles, trucks and buses. ADIFA is part of the Organisation Internationale des Constructeurs d'Automobiles, OICA, based in Paris. Some global companies are present in Argentina such as BYD, Fiat, Volkswagen Group, Ford, Iveco, General Motors, Nissan, Toyota, Scania, Mercedes-Benz, Renault, Honda, PSA Group and also some national companies such as Materfa, TAT SA, Helvetica, Crespi, Persang, etc. The last have produced replicas of classic cars equipped with modern technology. Brazil, edit. Main article, Automotive industry in Brazil. The Brazilian automotive industry was similar in size to the industries in Mexico and Argentina until 1960. It then had two spikes in growth and became a regional leader and even a world leader. By the end of the 1970s, annual production exceeded 1 million units, making it the 10th largest automotive manufacturer in the world. After some decreases around 1990, a new period of growth has allowed Brazil to surpass traditional automotive leaders, for example Belgium, the United Kingdom, Italy, Canada, Russia, Spain, France, in terms of annual production, nearly 3.5 million vehicles per year, 7th largest in the world. The Brazilian industry is regulated by the Associação Nacional dos Fabricantes de Veículos Automotores, ANFAVEA, created in 1956, which includes makers of automobiles, light vehicles, trucks and buses, and agriculture machines with factories in Brazil. ANFAVEA is part of the Organisation Internationale des Constructeurs d'Automobiles, OICA, based in Paris. Most large global automakers have a presence in Brazil, including BYD, Fiat, Volkswagen Group, Ford, General Motors, Nissan Motors, Toyota, MAN SE, Mitsubishi, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, DAF, Iveco, Renault, Honda, Hyundai, Audi, BMW, Peugeot, Citroën, Kia, Suzuki, SsangYong, JAC Motors, Chery, etc. Brazil also has a number of emerging national companies such as CAOA Chery, Troller, Marcopolo SA, Agrail, Randon SA, Excalibur, TAC, Lobinai, etc., some of which have produced replicas of classic cars upgraded with modern technology. In the past there were national brands such as FNM, Fábrica Nacional de Motors, DKW Vemag and Gurgel, Puma Veículos e Motors do Colombia, edit. Automotive manufacturing in Colombia had achieved an output of more than 100,000 vehicles per year in 2005, but their output in the past few years has been reduced by about 30,000 vehicles per year. Surprisingly, it has seen an incremental increase from the year 2008 and onwards, principally attributable to increased export rates to other Latin American countries from one major factory, Sofasa. This factory assembles Renault cars for markets like Mexico, Peru, Bolivia and Ecuador. Ecuador, edit. The automotive industry in Ecuador is small, with an annual production 40,000 units. Manufacturers like GM Omnibus, producing the Chevrolet Aveo or the Chevrolet Sail, or A Mesa, producing the Kia Rio, exist. Uruguay, edit. The Uruguayan automotive industry has seen development recently thanks to with Chinese manufacturers' involvement, with plants such as Nordex, in Montevideo, producing for Geely, Socma, in Barra de Carrasco, producing for Chery, closed in 2015, Olafan, producing in San Jose Department, closed in 2021, and EFA Motors. Old models are Gramet and Indio. Venezuela, edit. Venezuelan automotive manufacturing has the 36th largest output, by units of vehicles, worldwide and the 4th largest in Latin America, after Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. In the 1970s and 1980s, vehicle production was between 150 and 200,000 units per year of mainly US-developed vehicles. Chrysler, Ford, Iveco, General Motors, Mitsubishi Motors Forward/Hyundai Motor, Honda and